Hi, time for another edition of Simply Stated. Today, we'll be talking about some pertinent topics and referring back to, of course, the huge volume of information I put together for the show, the Thought Project, just so you know, that I put together through 2022 through 2023. And also, we'll be going through a few stories and bits from the past. Obviously, you won't be able to keep up with the show entirely if you didn't watch the Thought Project, just so you know, because that's the show that had all the really heavy research and reference materials in it that, Simply Stated builds on. So, but I think today we'll start out with the topic of literally the story came in. I do have some sources in the U.S. military, so I get information that the mainstream media is never going to report to you or only discuss euphemistically, and that's a right I've actually earned through having lived in the D.C. area for 19 years and building relationships with the U.S. military, and talking also with the English and Australian militaries in South Korea and other countries, the Japanese. Like I have a very international coalition of contacts, so what I think is important to note is that on the 10th of March, there was an issue about 30,000 Chinese migrants crossing the southern border. It's not the first time in the last year that China has sent what is essentially a small, or some people would even call a large group of people over the border to make war on the U.S. and try to invade. And they were stopped by DHS. So I look at some of the jokes about DHS and how they're being made fun of at this point, and I think they're relevant in the sense that we're all really struggling and there's way too many illegals, especially Russian and Chinese illegal immigrants in the US who are fairly wealthy and who are fairly abusive coming into the country. And at the same time, I'm also recognizing that the US is being literally attacked all the time on the southern border and especially on the West Coast by Russia and China. And this thing with the border being invaded is really not about people from Mexico. I'd also like to address the issue in Haiti really quickly from my personal opinion is I saw a woman on the news over the weekend talking about how she wanted money for Haiti and needed, she wanted to address getting supplies, and she was talking about her father and his leadership, and now it turns out that the entire events in Haiti are being led by a gang, which is probably who her father is and heads. And I just had this horrible feeling when I was listening to her that she was just somebody that wanted money and was some creepy like Hollywood Russian mafia type that just wanted to throw herself a big party and maybe even have a lip sync festival. Like I made fun of the Thought Project, just so you know, and that's really the kind of deal you're getting sometimes. And I did see today the man from Haiti who is a leader there said they don't want money. They actually need help with long-term solutions because it really is a gang that's literally trying to overthrow their government or is overthrowing it. And please don't send money because it'll just end up going to the gang. So now like what I thought literally just watching those interviews, has been confirmed by someone from Haiti who actually wants real change and support for the country. So there you go. Notably, there's just a lot of different events I could cover, but I think the big thing I noted for me was that Akane Tomoko, if I'm saying her name right, she's the first Japanese citizen to be elected president of the International Criminal Court, and she has directly issued an arrest warrant against Putin for taking Ukrainian children. So the Japanese have taken, especially one of their women, has taken a really strong stance on the issues in Ukraine, decided he needs to be officially arrested. Whether or not anybody will actually be able to get into Russia to arrest him, I don't know. But that warrant is actually out there and was issued a few days ago. It was issued actually, I think, Monday. So, moving on to stuff that's like not as important, but it's always kind of interesting, bizarrely supportive pieces of information that I can turn in. I saw that Ryan Gosling, I didn't watch the Oscars, by the way, and most people don't anymore. In fact, I'd say most US citizens are way ahead of me in the sense that they don't even bother to watch the Oscars anymore. But they're pretty aware that it's basically just a party held by a bunch of people from Russia and Iran and China, China's CCP, the K.G.B, and Iran's mafia and K.G.B ties, where they basically just throw a party for themselves. But it's a do not watch for most Americans, basically. But I noticed that he, did his performance and a little reference to Barbie, which the movie's just terrible. I didn't know I would actually saw it, really. I know like 3 people that saw it. And one was a U.S. policy analyst. The other was a daughter of a U.S. general who was analyzing it for information because it's obviously a piece of just Russian CCP, garbage. And then I think there was another woman I went to see who's some libertarian Russian American woman that wanted to see it. And then, oh no, wait, there was a 4th woman who went to see it. I think some kind of weirdo that might be trafficking our kids. So, maybe tips on how to traffic her baby or something, whatever. But, because it's pretty much all the Barbie film was about. It was just like about grooming kids. It's kind of disgusting. So, but I thought it was kind of important to note because this is really funny. Ryan Gosling showed up to the Oscars with a woman who was clearly not his wife, and a blonde woman You can see some of the pictures she has in a gold top. It's sort of got like the U shape and tank cut, and clearly not Eva Mendes. And bizarrely, Eva Mendes was posting pictures all over the place, noting that Ryan Gosling is a C.A.A. It's supposed to be his agency or whatever. But bizarrely, Eva Mendes is posting all these pictures begging him to come home, and she's dressed up in Barbie like colors of black and pink and sparkles. It was just really pathetic and weird with her asking him to come home. And it started to make me wonder if they even have a real relationship at all, since so many of them. This makes me think Ryan Gosling is just another brick marriage contract person. He looks Russian. And I just started to think that, they don't really have a real marriage at all, or is it even just like something that they do for publicity, to kind of do tie-ins? And is Eva Mendes just a drug lord? Because I haven't seen her in that many projects. I only have like one movie she was in. She just doesn't do much. And she almost never comes to events with him, so it's just hard for me to believe that there's any kind of a real relationship there anymore, or that there ever was. Sorry, it makes my nose itch. So, and I'm just sort of wondering in the sense that, Mendes seems to be somebody that's got some pretty tight relationships with Chinese and Russian mafia as far as drug dealing. And that's the kind of stuff, there's a number of men that I met over the years, and this was really annoying actually, that told me they were being forced into marriages to these women for the drugs and the money to fund their projects in Hollywood, and they weren't ever going to do anything else because they weren't the kind of people who were ever going to have respectable careers anyways. So, like I point out with, and then the U.S. government's aware of this. They're aware of the front groups that were put together, and that Hollywood became that kind of a place back in the 80s for a lot of the old K.G.B. But Gosling has clearly decided to come out in public with the woman he's actually involved with, or, who, quote-unquote, has his heart, by taking her to the Oscars with him. I didn't even bother to pick up her name. I just thought, well, got it. So he's got like an arranged marriage, and he brought his mistress to the Oscars. Okay. And then most of us don't really watch anymore anyways, so maybe it doesn't even matter. I did also note that Rose McGowan, referring back to stuff with C.A.A., she put out another interview on her experience at C.A.A., that's Creative Artists Agency, and talked about how she can be impressive at times with her statements, but then she just totally misses saying anything that's really relevant to the overall issues. And she never really addresses the mafia stuff. She never really addresses the problems with Patricia. And I had too many people from the U.S. government that were investigators that came back to me to live in the D.C. area and said that she was just friends with Patricia, and that they doubted she was ever even raped by Weinstein. Or Weinstein, however you want to call the name. That they think that it was another woman that was raped, and her name and face were like photoshopped in so she could collect a settlement. And she's so incredibly either tranquilized or drugged or mentally ill at times that I just have a hard time getting any sense out of her interviews. Because the last one she put out was really weird, and she doesn't really explain issues. She just says weird things very laconically, overly slowly, like, do you think I don't know them? And then she just stares at the camera or the interviewer. It's just really creepy. And she never references the other agency that's responsible for so much of this. She never references Patricia and Kendrick's agency that Buffalo Bill works at. And she never talks about the corruption with them. The child trafficking, the drug use, the kidnapping, the theft, the destruction of people's property and homes here in the U.S., the massive debt, the murders. The long list of murders. I'm going to talk about one that was related to that agency going back years ago from Wisconsin. We're going to talk about that today. But, when somebody doesn't reference enough of the issue and they're just after one agency, and then she's talking about mumbo jumbo about the C.I.A., and the C.I.A. has been downsized, the C.I.A. is going, whoa, wait, we got too many assets and weirdos, and this guy Kendrick's like using our name and information, and now we've made this weird show Homeland about DHS where the woman looks way too Russian who stars in it. The show doesn't even look like it's about somebody who actually worked for DHS. Because I was a contractor for DHS at one point. I did home health. I didn't run around DC acting like the woman on Homeland. That weird, dumb Claire Danes character. I didn't act like that. Oh, I went to people's homes and took care of them. Brought up little reports. I mean, she just looked completely stupid and ridiculous. So the CIA's had the same problem. And the people doing it are all literally Russian mafia. Kendrick has made stuff that just makes DHS and the CIA look stupid. Stupid. And he's stupid. He's a stupid person, so what that comes down to. I did take some time just for my own research to go and talk to a group that was supposed to be taking people out to do model shows in LA. And they did very actively say, no decent agent will charge you money up front. They usually take a fee, like a 20% fee, 10% fee. Like I work with OnlyFans. OnlyFans takes a 20% fee off my work. That's what a normal agent does. They do not do what Kendrick did to me and steal your medical school money, or they certainly don't come to your nursing school programs and interrupt them and try to destroy them. And they certainly don't walk off with students from the programs who then end up disappearing, which is what happened to me with Buffalo Bill. But, Kendrick set all that up, and he spent a lot of time setting up past U.S. President Donald Trump and the current U.S. President, President Biden. So, anytime the U.S. government wants to make a move on that guy, let the rest of us know. But I don't think you're going to get the real story from anybody that's actually made money off of or worked in that set, either at, WME in Ever or at C.A.A. I just don't think you can trust anybody who has actually had fruitful work at those places. And, unless they left. Because there's what, UTI now? UTA? Like, so some people left those agencies to go to UTA to start over. I don't even know what's going to happen with that place, but I do know a few people who did that. They said, just heck with these people, they're too nuts, we're going over there. So, anyways, that's how UTA got started. But they wanted away from Patricia and Kendrick and Buffalo Bill and all the weird stuff at C.A.A. as well. So that's why they wanted away from the other two. I don't know if that's going to work out though. I have to go over this. So this is one of the weirder life experiences I had, and I think I processed this, explained this in the Thought Project, just so you know, but I actually knew the quote unquote Australian actor Chris Hemsworth. He's not Australian. He actually is from Minnesota, as far as I know, and may have actually been from Russia originally, and went to Luther College, his old K.G.B family, and cheats on his wife. And he hits women and is very abusive. I never saw him actually like hit any kids or anything, but I know he's a history making porns with women and not his wife. And his wife is actually a woman that I knew at Luther College. They're both heavily photoshopped. So knowing him in person, he is good looking, but he's not as good looking as the way he's photoshopped for the Academy Awards and for films. And also just a really screwed up guy. Really unhappy with whatever deal he's supposedly been dealt by. Obviously not really in love with his wife. Obviously they're just partners in whatever it is they're doing with organized crime, basically, out in Hollywood. So, big labor trafficker, beat up a lot of people from Luther College to get free labor for the schools. Funding, which is, they're not a good school at all. There's labor traffic people. And then also for, the fake front agency that I've referred a number of times. And, somebody that, I actually went to the U.S. government and said, you have to get this guy to stop coming out to D.C. to see me. I don't want to go through any more forced meetings with him because he's way too crazy. And it's not like I'm some weird, hot person who was worth, seeing. This was all about getting me to use my intellect to work for them for free. And these big guys who can beat people out. Here's just another one. Just another big dude. Hit people, get stuff for free. So, but, it's worth noting that, when you watch these movies and whatnot, as I explained for some other women, you don't want to go through your life thinking that there was some great guy out there that you missed out on. You saw a movie with Chris Hemsworth and thought he was a hottie, he was a great catch. He's not. He's really unfaithful to his wife and has openly told myself and other people that he had no problem with children being abused, although he didn't seem to be someone who preferred children himself. But any guy who's worth anything isn't going to tell you openly that they're okay with kids being beat up and trafficked and, children being sexually assaulted. As long as they get that paycheck, that's not a cool person to be around. So, I have to laugh a little bit. J.Lo, Jennifer Lopez, follow up on some older stuff. I noticed some of the 20-year-olds from her supposed scene have been putting out more shows on YouTube criticizing her, and it got really good following, so good for them. And I posted one of their videos actually from YouTube on my Facebook page. I really like supporting younger people, who are trying to make their way in the new media and emerging media, who are part of the creative set outside of Hollywood in the U.S. I just really like supporting other people if I can, and especially somebody who's really on point, good critic. So, but she's gotten a lot of criticism for her newest music video with Lotto, which looks completely terrible, and basically does look like her just masturbating in public, which she's had a habit of doing anyways. She used to do it at Luther College when she was there. She got beat up sometimes for it, but she never quit doing it, and that's all the video looks like. It's so aggressive and just weirdly K.G.B, with both of them. It's so obviously meant to offend people. It's just disgusting. And there's no point to look at it and say, you know, is this about being hip or with it? I mean, J.Lo's never been with it. She's never been with the times, and she's certainly never been a part of the autistic community in the U.S. or really anywhere. She's always just been this weirdo who stole from people. It's crazy. So, and now it looks like she's just totally coming apart. And I think some of this is that, you know, a number of other people who work for her have been worked over so many times. You know, Buffalo Bill has so much pressure put on him that he's starting to kind of get a little rough around the edges and doesn't really have it in him to keep like trying to support her and make everything work anymore. And maybe even whine out all himself, as far as I know. But one thing a woman noted to me a few months back, who I'm pretty sure was somehow tied in with mafia, or she might actually be Ukrainian mafia in the US, but she said, it's just dogging them. It's just dogging them. It's not enough. And I thought, you know, she's right. They're just being made to look bad now. And looking bad isn't really enough. These people actually really need to be held accountable. And they actually really do need to lose those careers and even the facade they put together with all their money that they've stolen and ideas they've stolen. You know, all that has to be removed too. So what you're seeing with J.Lo now, if you even want to bother to watch this, it's a little sick, is that she's just going to keep coming apart further and further. She's got a new movie out now called Atlas. It's been coming out soon. It just looks awful. I wouldn't bother watching it. It's going to be really, really bad because she's been set up pretty clearly with it. And now I'm going to go through this little story. When I was living in Janesville, Wisconsin, and I know I referenced this already in the Thought Project, just, you know, but there was a woman named Lauren Rollo. She was our class president. She was a year ahead of me in school. Really nice woman. Really cute little petite thing, and she was weird to me because she was so tiny. But, and she used to like to dress up like the girls in the movie Clueless. It was in the 90s. Very, very popular. And she had a lot of problems with stalking issues, and Wilhelm actually stalked her, and so did Cersei. And they kept insisting she wanted to be in Hollywood, and she actually wanted to become a doctor. And she had a really strong mind for science. It was horrible. And then the woman that later became Charlize Theron was stalking her too. I didn't put together this was actually Charlize Theron. Like, I thought it was somebody else that they just looked similar. But then after all the time I was out in DC, I went, oh my gosh, you're right. That was Charlize Theron. But she spent a lot of time grooming Lauren, and her real name was Lauren Rollo. And talking to her when we played soccer, and it used to just totally creep me out. So I was on JV soccer for a while. And then, and Lauren was on varsity, and Charlize just spent a ton of time grooming her, trying to get close to her, and then she was deemed to be really creepy and sent over to Craig High School from Berker. And even Craig got tired of her, and she couldn't just hang out there either. So she's a former soccer player, by the way, and a goalie, so she's pretty tough. But just one of the most aggressive, nasty people I've ever known. Spent a lot of time going up to victims of abuse, and people screaming at them and telling them they need to admit their abuse in public, and, you know, like, you're not allowed in private life. And obviously a serial killer. Really obviously a serial killer. The thing about Lauren is that she had talked with me probably about the fact that she was dealing with some stalking issues. And I don't know whatever happened to her. I honestly told her at some point, I said, with everything that's going on and the fact that these people are K.G.B., you know, because that's what's happening, is the U.S. government was trying to get after them and trying to break them down in the 90s. And the fights were pretty bad. I said, you may just honestly want to get up and just leave the area. I hope to this day that Lauren actually just disappeared on her own, like, left. I'm concerned that she actually was just murdered. And with what happened to Crystal Leggings and other people, most people think she probably didn't really make that, but she just got killed. She was a very bright person that I think could have gone somewhere else, and I don't think she made it. Because there was just too much going on in James at the time. It was too crazy. And, you know, I saw how much I was succeeding at the same time, struggling against all of it. And I saw the way, think about it this way, GM lost a factory there over it. Okay, General Motors and Janesville closed over this stuff with the K.G.B. there because of Cersei and Wilhelm and some of these other people. So when I talk to you about, you know, illegal immigration, and I talk to you about Russia and China just coming over here, and I talk to you about crazy people with fake names and aliases working in Hollywood that are abusive and labor trafficking and abusing kids and drugs, I'm talking about the destruction of the U.S. economy and jobs and stability for the rest of us, so we're not completely crazy. Because the rest of us are not into kids and we're not into being labor trafficked. We don't want to be run by China and Russia. And that's what it's really about. You know, and there's a lot of Russian and Chinese people who don't want to be run by the K.G.B. or the C.C.B., right? Or Iran. Even Iran has their days where I can tell some Iranians really don't want to be run by this weird stuff either. So, you kind of got to put it all together. But that was the point of the thought project, just so you know where I line it all up for you. So I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Went through a lot of heavy topics pretty quickly, but this is Simply Said Extra. So it's a little bit like the Thought Project, just so you know, but it's never going to be as in depth. I'm not going to lay it out for you like I did on that show. So anytime you need to go back and build through it all again, you know, like the history of the Mississippi, all of that stuff, U.S. history, you go back to that show and watch that, okay? But today I'm going to end this with singing my version of No More I Love Yous by Annie Lenox. So here we go. I used to be a lunatic from the gracious days. I used to feel beyond some restless nights. My aching heart would bleed for you to see. Oh, but now no more I love you. The language is leaving me. No more I love you. Changes are shifting outside the world. I used to have demons in my room at night. Desire, despair, desire, so many monsters. Oh, but now no more I love yous. The language is leaving me. No more I love you. The language is leaving me in silence. No more I love you. Changes are shifting outside the world. No more I love yous. The language is leaving me. No more I love yous. The language is leaving me in silence. No more I love yous. Changes are shifting outside the world. Outside the world. No more I love you. No more I love you. No more I love you. Changes are shifting outside And that was an extra edition of Simply Stated. Have a good one.